following video shows the step-by-step directions to replace the alternator in the 2005 to 2008 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo 4x4 with the 5.7 liter Hemi engine. Here is a list of the tools required. This video also shows how to use a multimeter to test the voltage of both the battery and the alternator. But if you do not have a multimeter, most auto parts stores will run the test on these components for free. If the dashboard battery warning light comes on, the first thing you want to do is check to make sure that the battery is holding its charge. With the vehicle off, use a multimeter, set it to 20 volts, and place the positive or red lead to the positive battery terminal and the black lead to the negative battery terminal. If the battery is holding its charge properly, you should get a reading of 12.4 to 12.8 volts. This battery is holding charge. Next, while the vehicle is running, check the voltage output of the alternator. A good alternator should output between 13.5 and 14.5 volts. This alternator is putting out less than 12.8 volts and needs to be replaced. The alternator is located on the lower passenger side of the engine. The first step is to loosen the 10mm nut and remove the negative battery terminal cable. The next step is to remove the engine cover. Simply lift it straight up to unseat the aligning pin from the rubber grommet below. Now we will have access to the 10mm bolt in the air intake resonator. Now we can remove the 10mm bolt. Next, loosen the hose clamp at the throttle body. Then loosen the hose clamp at the air intake box. Now remove the breather line. Now back the hose off from the air intake box. Now grab the air intake resonator and pull it towards you to get it off of the aligning pin. Once removed, you can set it forward onto the engine. The next step is to remove the air filter. Simply release the two clips, remove the lid, and then remove the air filter. Now the 8mm bolt must be removed from the air intake box. The 8mm bolt can easily be removed with the 6-inch or longer socket extension bar. Now disconnect the grille side air intake tube from the air intake box. Once cleared, rock the air intake box back and forth while pulling upward to dislodge the aligning pin from the rubber grommet below and the L bracket from the side grommet. Once removed, you can see the air box alignment pin grommet, and you can see the side L bracket and its corresponding grommet. Now we have access to the alternator and the serpentine belt. The alternator has one 15mm bolt at the top of the housing and one 15mm bolt in the lower end of the housing. The next step is to remove the serpentine belt. The tensioner is located directly above the crank pulley. It has a 3/8" square hole, so you can use a 3/8" ratchet wrench. Turn the tensioner clockwise to release the tension and remove the belt. Next, remove the upper and lower 15mm bolts. Remove the alternator from the bracket. Now squeeze the clips and remove the cover from the positive alternator terminal. Now remove the 13mm nut and wire from the positive terminal. Depress the tab and remove the harness from the alternator. Now you can remove the alternator from the vehicle. Always bring the old alternator to the auto parts store to have it bench tested to ensure it is defective. You can also then use it to compare to the new one to make sure it's going to be the correct fit. You will also be credited with the core charge return when you purchase the new one. The old alternator did fail the bench test. It was pushing low voltage. Before you buy a new alternator, have that bench tested as well to make sure that it is working properly. We also decided to replace the serpentine belt at this time due to the high mileage on the vehicle. The first step in the alternator installation is to reattach the cable to the positive terminal. Make sure that the tab is facing towards the alternator to align it. Thread the 13mm nut on and tighten with the socket wrench. Attach the wire harness and terminal cover and make sure they click into place. Lift the alternator into place and thread the upper and lower 15mm bolts into place. The top bolt is the longer bolt. Be careful not to over tighten these bolts. The manufacturer's torque setting is 30 foot-pounds. Next, install the serpentine belt. Here is the diagram. Turn the tensioner clockwise and slip the belt over the alternator pulley. Now check to make sure the alternator and serpentine belt have been installed correctly. Attach the negative battery terminal cable and tighten. Now temporarily slide the resonator into place. Slip the air hose over the throttle body. Now slip the air hose over the air intake box top. Attach the breather hose. Slide the air filter into place. Now start the vehicle and see if the battery warning light is off on the dashboard. While the vehicle is running, use a multimeter to test the output voltage of the new alternator. The reading should be between 13.5 and 14.5 volts. Now perform a load test. Turn the headlights, AC, and wipers on. The voltage output should still be above 13 volts. This alternator is working correctly. Disassemble the temporary setup and begin installing the remaining parts. The next step is to install the air intake box. Align the lower aligning pin with the grommet and also align the side bracket with the grommet. Push down to seat both items. Then align the air intake tube from the grille side and snap it into place. Now install the 8mm bolt in the air intake box. Install the air filter and air box top and close the spring clips in place. Next, slide the air intake resonator over the alignment pin. Slide the air hose over the throttle body opening. Attach the resonator's air intake hose to the air box, then attach the breather line, then tighten the hose clamps at the air intake box and the throttle body assembly. Now install the 10mm bolt in the resonator. Next, slide the engine cover into place and push down on the alignment pin to seat it in the rubber grommet. Congratulations on completing the alternator installation. Be sure to visit the Get It Done Now site to view all the latest project videos.